Long before Europe thought about taking Africa, the continent was already full of life, beauty, and order. There were forests, deserts, rivers, mountains, and lands filled with gold, salt, rubber, diamonds, and fertile soil. Powerful kingdoms ruled different regions. The Ashanti Empire in West Africa had well-organized armies and golden thrones. The Zulu Kingdom in southern Africa was famous for its brave warriors. The Benin Kingdom in present-day Nigeria had artists who made bronze statues that amazed even the Europeans. In Central Africa, people in the Congo Basin had rich cultures and trade routes through rivers and forests. Africans had their own systems of governance, religion, law, farming, and trade. There were cities with markets, schools, and even libraries, like in Timbuktu. But outside Africa, in Europe, there was growing hunger, not for food, but for resources, power, and land. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Europe went through the Industrial Revolution. Factories needed more raw materials, rubber for tires, oil for machines, cotton for clothes, and gold and diamonds for wealth. At the same time, Europe was facing economic hardship, population growth, and political competition. Their kings, businessmen, and traders began to look at Africa like a treasure chest, just waiting to be opened. European explorers were sent to learn more about Africa. Mungo Park traveled along the Niger River. David Livingstone went deep into Central and Southern Africa, searching for rivers and Christian converts. Henry Morton Stanley followed the Congo River and claimed lands in the name of Belgium. These explorers returned with stories, not just of danger and wild animals, but of golden lands, rich forests, and people who didn't have guns. Europe became excited, but instead of respecting Africa's beauty and independence, they made one selfish decision. We must take it before someone else does. Soon, countries like Britain, France, Portugal, Belgium, and Germany began sending armies, merchants, and missionaries into Africa. They took over towns, rivers, and villages, claiming the land as their own. It became like a race. Each country wanted to grab the largest piece of Africa. Britain moved into Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, and South Africa. France took Algeria, Senegal, Mali, and Madagascar. Portugal claimed Angola and Mozambique. Belgium, though small, took a huge part of Central Africa, the Congo. Germany wanted Cameroon, Namibia, and Tanzania. They didn't care about the people already living there. They didn't speak African languages or ask for permission. They just raised flags and called it theirs. But soon, this scramble led to confusion and conflict. Two European countries might claim the same land. There were arguments and threats of war. To avoid fighting each other, they decided to meet in Berlin, Germany, and divide Africa properly, like businessmen sharing profits. In 1884, Otto von Bismarck, the Chancellor of Germany, invited 14 European countries to a meeting called the Berlin Conference. The room was filled with powerful men, kings, ministers, and businessmen. On the table was a large map of Africa, but one thing was missing. No African leaders were invited, not a single one. They made rules on how to divide Africa. Any country that took a piece of land had to control it with force. They had to inform other European countries to avoid clashes. The Congo and Niger rivers would stay open to all European traders. They gave King Leopold II of Belgium personal control over the Congo Free State, about 76 times the size of Belgium itself. They drew straight lines on maps with no care for African tribes, kingdoms, or families. One kingdom could be split into 3 colonies. 2 enemies could be forced to live under one foreign ruler. It was like breaking a mirror and expecting the pieces to still fit. When the European powers returned from Berlin, they wasted no time. Soldiers with guns, cannons, and horses invaded villages. They burned homes, killed chiefs, and forced kings to sign treaties they couldn't read. They lied, bribed, and used force to take what was never theirs. But Africa did not bow easily. Samurai Touré of the Wasulu Empire fought against the French for years. Queen Ya Asantewa of the Ashanti Empire led her people in a war against the British. The Zulu people resisted British invaders in the south. In Ethiopia, Emperor Menelik II gathered warriors and defeated Italy at the Battle of Adwa in 1896. Even in the face of defeat, African fighters showed courage, leadership, and love for their land. But Europe had new weapons and deep pockets. By the early 1900s, only Ethiopia and Liberia remained truly independent. Colonization came with violence and greed. In the Congo Free State, Leopold's men cut off the hands of workers who didn't meet rubber quotas. People were enslaved, whipped, and forced to carry ivory, gold, or rubber. African languages were banned in schools. African history was erased and replaced with lies. Missionaries came with the Bible and said, "This is to save your soul." But the next group came with guns and said, "This land now belongs to us." The colonizers built railways, mines, and schools, but all were designed to benefit Europe, not Africa. Millions of Africans died from war, hunger, slavery, and disease. Families were broken, cultures were insulted, and kingdoms were destroyed. By the 1950s and 1960s, Africa began to rise again. Freedom fighters, students, and leaders stood up. Kwame Nkrumah led Ghana to independence in 1957. Jomo Kenyatta, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Nelson Mandela, and others followed across the continent. But even after independence, Africa struggled with borders drawn by outsiders, tribal divisions, stolen wealth, foreign languages and systems. The seeds of pain planted in Berlin in 1884 still grow today. Civil wars, ethnic tensions, and poverty are some of the scars of colonization. Yet, Africa continues to rise, rebuild, and remember. The scramble for Africa was not just about land. It was about power, pride, and profit. It was a story of betrayal and greed, written in Berlin, but paid for by millions of African lives. And yet, through it all, Africa never lost her soul. She still sings, still dances, still hopes, and still tells her stories. This story must be remembered, not to bring hate, but to bring truth, justice, and pride in who we were, who we are, and who we are becoming.